All right, good evening, everyone. Call the meeting to order at 6:33. It's been a couple months since we last saw each other.
You got the chair.
Yep. Yes, I mean. Yeah, I have to see if someone's talking. Okay, let's try that.
Okay. Thank you all for coming to our last workshop. It's been a short 9 months of these. We're on workshop 8, final workshop. We're going to go over it's extra tired today. We're going to go over a lot of the same stuff we've gone over before. A lot of the design is very similar to what it's been, but we're also going to go over the most anticipated cost estimate, which is fine. So we're generally in good shape, and so we're just going to kind of go over where the design is landing and what we're building on, and then we're going to go into kind of a new schedule, which is the bidding schedule, which is relative in like the general contractors and receiving bids and getting information and stuff. So first is Our schedule, oof.
Like a 20,
Hit it a
minute
20,
before you're
30
ready.
second delay here.
Because it's here, so.
That's really long. So we're at the very end there of our construction documents. We have a few weeks before we finish our actual drawings, but in terms of this process, we're nearly at the end. And then we've been full speed for the last few weeks doing our drawings and getting everything documented as much as possible. So there has been a lot happening since the last time we met in July, which is amazing. We did get all of our approvals from ZBA, which was great. There was an extra ZBA meeting, which was kind of more just ZBA stuff going on. We came out to the library a lot. We were here measuring. You probably saw, if you've been to the library, you noticed there were a bunch of holes all over the place. That was us, and Tina and Frank.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah. And we also started a new process, which was pre-qualifying some GCs, which we are ending that process next week. It's looking really good. So just to show you a bit of what we've been up to. I should have been ahead of that.
It's quicker.
Yeah. So we've been measuring little things like the brownstone sills, window sills, a bunch of little things like that, counting some bricks. And we've also been blasting holes through the wall, a lot of holes in Tina's office, finding a bunch of brick behinds, some stuff we weren't expecting, some stuff we were. And it was a lot of holes. There could, of course, be more holes. We found some rubble foundation that kind of resolved some answers we had about weirdly thick walls. So that was all interesting. It's pretty exciting, honestly. It's like a little glimpse into what construction's going to be like, and it's much better to get that glimpse now than after the contract's signed. So, and it's really helping us detail our drawings better. So something that Audrey put together has been incredibly helpful, is actually knowing where all the holes are. Because we go and stick our phones in these holes and then lose it. So this has been immensely helpful. I know we've been like measuring inside all of those and everything. So it's really been fun. And then we've also been going to quarries and brickyards to go and get samples and kind of get some inspiration for what these will be. And we'll go over this later, but we've been, there's an enormous amount of bricks in the back of my car right now. And it's been a way bringing them to and from the site, putting them up against the wall and kind of narrowing them down. Oh, come on.
The Zoom seems to be updating faster than the TV does.
It is, because it's, I think with the issue, we're having like a Wi-Fi situation. So the people on Zoom can see these slides perfectly.
Well, there's a bunch of pictures that are gonna pop up of the bricks, next to the building. This was pretty fun, as we brought as many bricks as we had out and we lined them all up at the building and then started to narrow it down somewhat subjectively. And then once we had it narrowed down to like a little less than a dozen, we started carrying those around to like shaded and not shaded areas. It's amazing how much light changes these. So at first we were viewing them inside and we realized that was just not the right view at all. There is a great light on the patio, but it was also 110 degrees. And then we brought it to the other side of the building. So it was really interesting and pretty exciting to see these. And then there's also stone there, so it wasn't just brick, and trying to get that mock-up correct. And then we brought all those back and we started to compose them within our office, which there will be pictures coming up of, and we're also going to show you some of those later. Also been drawing on the computer a lot. that's been 95% of the time. Oof, this is gonna be slow.
Is there some, yeah.
So
Because if I shut it down, I don't know if it's gonna come back.
yeah, so I'll try and click ahead of it, but so that's just Audrey building some of these and some of the samples that we had, and we're gonna jump into the 65% estimate. So this was based on a pretty developed set of drawings. It had a lot of the exterior details in it, had our plans pretty much set. And so we're relatively confident in this number. It is, of course, an estimate though. So we're gonna go over what the next steps will bring us. But well, next, so this is the graph you've all seen. And the farthest one to the right is our most recent estimate number. We're at around 8.4 million. To be exact, it came in at 8.424. But that number, we were still talking with the estimator about a little bit based on some questions about the market. But it's kind of within the realm of acceptability. And we're and means we can kind of move forward with what we have.
So you'll all remember back at the beginning of the summer, when we had our DD estimate, we saw that big jump up to the $9.2 million construction cost from where we were at the end of schematic design at 8.1. So that was a really big jump, and we all sort of reacted to that, and we targeted a whole bunch of value list here on the next slide. And in that effort, we targeted around 900 to even $1 million in savings. We didn't quite get all the way down to that 8.2 number, but we're quite close to it with everything that we incorporated. So we feel much better about it than where we were at the end of DD. I mean, we're down effectively $800,000 from the DD estimate to where we are now. And we won't go through all of this. We went through it with you all at the time. We remember we called sort of an additional meeting to go through all of these things. But we did incorporate all of these things into that 65% CD set, and the estimate has been updated accordingly.
And so some of those numbers that we showed last time, like they had to adjust a little bit based on some design changes and some things that had to kind of be studied a bit more. But these reductions were made, especially the big ones. One that did come back exactly what we thought it was the MEP adjustment. That was exactly $152,000 in savings, which was nice to see. But then there's the next aspect of this kind of pricing exercise, which is the real number that comes in. And I'm really happy to say that we've been pre-qualifying GCs with a committee that's made up of Matt, me, Lisa, and Tina. And we've been meeting weekly and going over kind of this scoring system, and we received 10 GC submissions, which is really, really good. And so we anticipate that we'll get quite a few bids, and so live bidding scenario. So that number should be around there. Matt expressed to us this morning that he had extra confidence because of a bid that recently came in on another project that's was below and above the estimates, right? So the estimators tend to hit or aim for the middle of all the estimates, or of all the bids, sorry.
Yep.
So.
When the bids come in, are we on
Responsive,
responsive?
and we get to, it's the purview. Denise, you may want to comment further on that, but the awarding authority has the discretion to determine which one is the low responsive bid. And you look and
Where's
make
the
sure
term responsive?
they need to have all of their DCAM paperwork, their bonding, certain other statutory items, and also they need to provide their DCAM update statement, which is their essentially their asset management and maintenance.
There's a state office.
And so through that, we'll be able to assess that they're in good standing and otherwise have a complete bid. And then, you know, beyond that, generally, it's in public interest to take the low bid. But if you determine that there's something that's out of sorts with their bid paperwork, then you may go to the next.
I'll be honest, it's,
Unresponsible.
you could be challenged though, I mean, so they really
Yeah,
have
that'd
to
be
not be a responsible bidder. If they submit all the documentation, we can't just say we don't like this company. So we are bound by the lowest responsive and responsible bidder.
And they're bound by their bid.
But that's also why we're pre-qualifying them, is so that we're not bound to not qualify. Yeah.
Can I ask one question? Was there 9 out of the 10 that met the criteria? Or have you finished ranking
not
them?
finished
Oh,
yet.
We have not finished pre-qualification committee activities. I can provide an update on that at the appropriate point in the agenda. I don't want to take things out of order here. If folks would like.
So, sorry, I was trying to time the slides right, but we're just gonna quickly go over the interior character. It's very, very similar to what we've seen. We made some pretty minor adjustments, mainly to the children's library. There are some smaller adjustments, really small, like a tiny little shaft on that next to the small meeting room. So that's kind of what we've been working on, where some of these things land. So this floor is set entirely. We've been detailing the circulation desk and like how many drawers go in there and where the wires for the computer go and stuff. Should've gotten ahead of it. Oh, great. So this is where a bit of a larger change was. We just reorganized the children's library a little tiny bit to just get a few more bookcases in there. And we shrunk the number of seats to, we were overestimating the number of seats that were requested. So we had 26 seats and Chris recommended 18 to 20. So now we're at 18. And we
We can go over all this too with Chris,
Yeah.
to make sure that she's on board, but this program area used to be 90 degrees and more there, but we weren't able to yield quite enough bookshelves, so we've got a bar of shelves there. We kind of imagine that's young children collection here with the program area shifted. So there's now 18 seats there, which was what Chris was hoping to target. Before we had a few more seats, but not enough books. So that's really the shift.
And those bookshelves are gonna be movable or no?
Ideally, the ones that are not against the wall, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask a quick question on the previous slide? You don't have to switch it. Where, when you're in the community room, where do you expect things like a television, like which wall do you expect like the television or whatever, like if someone's doing a presentation, like which direction are people facing?
So it'll be facing the, I will go back. It will be facing the nano wall.
You say these things like I know what you mean.
I'm going back.
And so this is the wall, Cat, that
Yep.
can open up, sort of like a little accordion. And,
Yeah,
but we're imagining the projection screen comes down.
perfect,
wall.
thank you,
So,
got it.
you wouldn't be able to have that wall open and project at the same time, but those are kind of competing things anyway.
Right,
So you'd be oriented towards this wall.
awesome. I just wanted to make sure we weren't like orienting towards that door that opens towards the storage, so.
No, so
Yeah.
folks would, come in the back of the room and
Right.
the storage in the back of the room.
Got
and
it.
Presentation wall would be that wall.
Okay, thank you.
And we have, just on the topic of AV and presentations, I mean, we have had sidebar meetings with folks from the library to coordinate all of that stuff.
So if you did have it open for some event and you also needed to be presenting, you can't do that with a screen. you can stand somewhere and be talking, but you couldn't have a screen and the open seating. So it's sort
With
of,
the open wall, yeah, with the wall open up.
right, the
yeah.
indoor, outdoor to allow for a bigger group.
Right,
Okay.
not so in the presentation format, no, I mean, the thought was that the presentation format, the wall would be closed.
Right. Okay.
But other than that, the plans have pretty much stayed the same. And so have the finishes. We made some slight adjustments for we're considering kind of walk-off material and trying to make sure that the most resilient material is where people are walking the most. It's coming up. So we've actually pulled the tile.
I can do it, Andrew.
Got it?
Yeah, we, at one, the last stage, we had cork, which is this kind of tan tone, come all the way to this point. And we were just a little bit concerned with foot traffic, people coming into the elevator, giving them a little bit more, a few more steps before they get onto the cork. So we pulled that cork back to the bottom of the ramp and the bottom of the stair, and it sort of defines our sort of kind of threshold, if you will, between new and old.
What do you have there, tile? And-
Yeah, this is, it's getting kind of washed out here. You can't really see it, but it's a large format porcelain tile.
And is that the same for the community room?
It's also washed out. The community room is a resilient tile. So it's
It's a little softer underfoot. It's a little better acoustic
You
property.
see it better on Zoom.
Yeah.
Where is their carpet?
So carpet is all of the collections, so everything on the left, and also in the workroom and
Yeah.
under
The workroom and
circulation
circ desk for staff, that's carpeted, and then from this point over, it's carpeted. The restrooms have a different porcelain tile. Specify the carpet, but just given that it's publicly bid and we don't know who the bidders are, and we have to specify 3 comparable equals is what it's referred to. We can't, it's proprietary, have one specific material that we specify. So once we get deeper into construction, there'll be an opportunity where we come together and talk about the actual, the actual carpet that will go in.
In general, we're proposing pretty neutral tones, which helps bring out where some of the brick is exposed, and it just kind of lightens the darker spaces, makes it a little easier. And so this is also stayed roughly the same. We're keeping the wood in the existing building, a light cork lobby, and then some carpet in the children's library that has an again in the program space where Chris will be painting and using water and kids will be flying around and stuff. Yep, I did press the button.
That's
but
right,
you
that's
probably
gonna
have
go.
two
I'm not
minutes.
quite at this. And that, like, what is that?
So that's a bathroom and that's tile.
No, that
Little
one.
white sliver.
Oh, that's a little shaft.
Okay.
Mechanical chase?
Yeah.
Then you don't have to go back.
So like I said, it's mostly neutral tones, with what isn't natural is neutral tone, and that natural materials kind of express their own color. And then of course the brick kind of stands out within this palette of materials.
So what is that blue?
That blue is the children's accent
Okay.
carpet tile. So what was on the kind of rim of the room.
And that's the only place it is, and it's the only.
So we're gonna fly through some of these, well, fly. But these are all renderings that you've seen, but just so you remember, what these spaces are, they're light. There's some double height spaces and there's a lot of natural tones. And so the floor kind of fades away a bit and relieves the wood. And we're really happy with this arrangement. And there will be probably some vinyl graphics, which is what that kind of green is representing, but that's another thing that will be and continuing to work on through design until, and that's usually like the last thing that gets installed in the building besides the furniture. Or after the furniture. But, and this composition of like the woods, working through those kind of 3 double height spaces, if you count the stairs, is still very strong. We've been designing this millwork system with the bench and the kind of bookcase that goes all the way up through the stairs a lot now, which is really fun, really exciting. And all these spaces that we've gone through kind of represent that same composition of neutrality with their natural colors coming out. Might get stuck on these for a bit. I'm out of filler.
Cool way to present.
I could check on, that's where he's at. Oh,
Click, click next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think these have really changed since we showed them to you at the end of June. It's hopefully giving you the flavor of what it is we're up to.
So yeah, the upper level as well, it's the same. And we're bringing that idea of neutrality into the existing building as well. So the colors will start to recede, so the wood can come out, because that wood again is really nice. It's in great condition, and so it really should be brought out.
Do you expect another mural on that green wall?
But we can always reconsider.
I have a quick question about those wired rails. I have them in my house too, but I knew it was like a challenge for us because kids can climb it like a ladder. So I guess I'm just making sure that we've considered that next to children's room.
We talked about that quite a bit, and that moment has actually adjusted, and we have the I do regret not changing it in the rendering, but it's actually going to be kind of display cases with wiring running through it.
Got it.
It'll be more for displaying books and all that.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love it in my own house too, but I have it only on my low decks.
Yeah, so there's this language of the sort of through the spine of the stair, like bookcases coming up through the stair, where you can display books or objects. So it can, rotate with the seasons or a certain part of the collection that wants to be showcased. So it's a display opportunity.
Just want to make sure that has.
Yeah, we talked about it, yeah.
Can I ask a question? And if this turns out to not be the right time, you can tell me that, but the mural made me think of it. We don't have anything decided, but the trustees and the Revitalize committee had talked about possibly having an area where we did some type of plaque or tree, whatever, some type of recognition design. Is that, and I feel like I'm having memories of having to tell you guys if we wanted to do that, to work it in, and I'm wondering if that happened or not, or if there's still opportunity for it, or if the time has passed.
I mean, there's always opportunity. If it's a graphic, that's easy.
Right, or more of
if it's-
if that happens to be a nice open space that has yet to be covered with something, we could say, oh, this is this big, we could use this for,
Yeah,
if we wanted to.
yeah, there's
Okay.
potential to do that.
Okay, thank you.
But, and depending on what that actually is, it will have kind of an effect on the construction. I don't anticipate it's going to be really complicated, but if it's something besides a vinyl graphic, it will be.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So on that note, would you prefer the trustees and Revitalize saying, we envision needing a 6 by 6 foot section of the wall? What do you think you need to help
Right.
plan for something?
It's a little bit of the cart and horse situation,
Yeah.
and so we don't really know what we're gonna do yet, but we don't know what's available and we don't wanna, we obviously can't like spring that on you in a year, so. That's a good question.
Building signage, it's not a big building, it's not that complicated to navigate, but we might want some select signage here or there. So those two processes of furniture and like signage often happen. Designing those components during the construction process.
Okay.
So we can map out a proposed process, and I think what we suggest to start is like just hearing what you just described, we could highlight a couple locations where something like that might work, and then we just
Okay.
start a dialogue around it.
That'd be great. Perfect. Thank you.
So children's library, that's where that accent color will appear, kind of like on both those images on the right there.
But you'll expect it with the gray, so the gray and the blue.
Yeah, yeah, so more like that. Bottom right one where it's green, but the arrangements, like they'll ask for during construction as well. But we've kind of outlined in the plans that it'll be around the rim of the room. So is there any discussion on the interior besides what we've already discussed?
Can I ask another question on the exterior?
On the exterior?
You're allowed to.
For the stair rail that Kat was asking about, I understand it being display or something, but I'm just looking at how that subtraction from the floor kind of intersects with the portal. And this is almost kind of collision of the old and the new, and I like the old and new next to each other. Does that opening need to come?
As hard as we could, we met with structural engineer trying to push the beams back to try and get a slip head height, but this is the best we got. So we also did adjust that to be a display case as well. So that display case will be moved, kind of entering into that room.
Yeah, I think that'll help. It's an important moment.
Yeah, we hear you. We would love to have got that floor opening aligned with the wall opening. We've been saying all along, we're just fighting for every inch in this building, and it just wasn't a way to make it work, unfortunately. But we're confident in where we've landed that it'll be a nice resolution.
We are moving on to the exterior. 5 minutes.
You should go past the agenda page. There you go.
Our plant selections have been made. I need to check on that screen where it's at, but so that's all settled, and we've been working, meeting weekly with both civil and landscape, of course, to make sure everything aligns and everything hits correctly, and all of our manholes are in the right place and not under walls or anything. So this is kind of the architectural exterior composition, as well as some of the landscape materials. These are all things that we've seen before. It's kind of a similar story to the interior, where it's a lot of neutral tones to then bring out the brick, which I think is expressed very well in this little diagram. The brick really stands out, and so does the brownstone. And then if you zoom out a bit more, in a moment.
So I'm gonna actually pause for a moment. So we're getting some interference and I can see that someone else's microphone keeps kicking on. So anyone who's on Zoom, if you could just make sure your microphones are muted, because someone is interfering with the talking points here. And I can't see who it is because I don't want to touch anything while we're presenting.
Okay, switched. So these are all of our plant selections, and majority of them. The tree colors are very bright in these images, but of course, colors change seasonally. But we have chosen some bright seasonal trees, and the existing trees as well. So I'm quite fond of this composition altogether. I do really like to think about all the plants and materials all together as one rather. In detail, and where we found them on the interior and on the exterior, and then how we're kind of jumping from those into our detailing. Everything okay, Denise?
Yes. Go ahead. I know Sunny's not on.
Where's the detail on the right, on both, sorry?
That is on the fireplace in the wood unit. Which for a while I was trying to get that sawtooth detail in the building, but we didn't have a reason for it. And then we found it later on in the building after we had moved away from that detail, but I felt vindicated.
That's why I asked.
But it's less than 2 square feet. It's just in the window arrangements and dormers and cap shape and entrance have all stayed the same. Of course, we did not make these dramatic changes this late. The detailing as well. Our elevations are roughly the same.
Did you hit that? I didn't see
No,
it
maybe I
change.
didn't.
Is that not working? I'll just hit it.
There it is.
So these are elevations that you've seen. Mostly, I mean, they've adjusted slightly, but you won't notice.
Which is the view from if you're on 117? So south, right? Okay. That's on like Library Hill or Crescent.
Library Hill.
Looking from the
Right.
common at the
Okay,
building
yep.
and stuff.
Okay.
And coming up will be the view from the memorial, and that kind of the rendering that we've been looking at, and how this changes. So this is the current view. Of course, you can barely see the historic building because of the 70s addition and the retaining wall. And of course, big goal of this project was to bring out the turret and to kind of make that front lawn and Library Hill. And that would express the building way more and kind of be more representative of what it should for the town when it's coming up. And we'll, at the end of this, we do have some brick mock-ups that we can kind of turn around and talk about the process to continue this and brick selection and composition of everything. But this is what we imagine this space looking like. We've looked at this many times, and it's just been massaged a tiny bit. But it's really exciting to see the hill kind of come out. I think that's great part of this project. The next one is. Sorry, yeah.
That could be the Brunswick pet that I want.
Comfort dog.
It just looks so spacious in
You could
this
have-
view, and I'm finding it very hard to imagine it.
It
But,
looks so much bigger
right,
than what we have, and I don't understand why.
right, I mean, I believe you that you
It-
measured, so.
It will be more spacious than you imagine, I think, just looking at it right now.
An easy way to think about it, I mean, it's approximate, but like where that site wall
Sorry.
is kind of where the footprint of the seventies edition is now. It's that much further. So we're pushing it so much further back that becomes sort of this arrival court, and just, it will be a more gracious sort of entry experience into the building.
Mhm.
And we are, part of this is. Site than what you currently have, so we're moving that a few feet in.
But it's just a few feet, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit more than a few feet.
How many feet is it,
Forget off the top of my head, but I think it's over 5 feet.
really?
I mean, I think this is the sort of stuff that needs to be communicated well at the meeting, that like, look at how great it can be without needing that much more space, or, you know, making some small adjustments or better use of space, because, well, not this one, but the other picture looked just so wonderful.
So you're taking 5 feet from Common Road? And we're not sure it's gonna be one way? How can that happen?
So there's a public hearing on October 3rd and the select board meeting on the October 10th. And once again, I ask you all to attend and speak on behalf of this project, because it's falling on deaf ears, yet being just Lisa, Tina and I, or, so I really, the more support we can get, the better. So we will still have, so the contract documents will go out with, the construction document will go out with the anticipation of it being one way. And should something change and that not happen, we will have to issue an amendment to deal with that. So,
What time are those meetings, 7 or 8?
so I don't, the public hearing, I'm not sure what time they made it. Let's see if it's on, so the select board is,
6,
it
because
might be 6.
isn't 7 the gun one again? Right after?
Yes.
Planning board, yeah.
Planning board is, so I think it is at 6.
And what committee is that?
Traffic safety,
This is the 3rd or the 10th?
Third.
the 3rd,
And then the 10th is the select board.
10th
And
is the
that's at
select board.
7, right? I
7.
mean, it's 7.
So yeah, so the ask of the select board, so what I would expect is the traffic safety will hold the foundation. And this is the piece that, I don't think the one way is gonna be as controversial, quite frankly. The piece that will be is that we need to ask for several feet in the common side to be removed, to expand, to sort of shift the road a little bit, to make way for the additional feet coming out at the library site.
And to have formal parking
And
on that
to
side.
make formal parking. So I think, you know, even though when you stand there and look at it, it's all dirt because people park up on the common, it makes more sense to move that curb in, clean it up, designate parking. But the minute you mention taking space out of the common, everyone gets in a tizzy because it's the common. So again, I think that's where we need more, I mean, I don't live here, Tina doesn't live here, and we need residents to come in and say, you know, this is a benefit is because of X, Y, and Z. Especially on obviously those pieces.
And that, to be clear, does not impact the memorial at all.
It does not,
Right, okay.
it doesn't impact anything other
Right,
than when you
right.
look at it. I think we have to move potentially. Maybe. Is all just dirt,
Right, right,
so it's,
Not
And that's a
because-
7 PM meeting?
yes. And both will have Zoom components, so both of them
Traffic
have
safety
Zoom.
is at 6 on October.
Yes, I think it's 6. I'll confirm once they actually post it. It'll be in the paper, but I'll confirm once they post it, but I believe it will be at 6 o'clock.
I was gonna go over the importance of that meeting. It is extremely important to this
Yeah.
project, obviously, so it's a great question, Melissa. So, yeah, we'll be there as well to make sure everybody's there.
Is there any, I don't know, conflict of interest? Because I imagine if any of us go and we say we're on the building committee or we're on the trustees or whatever. it
No, you
shouldn't
don't have a
matter.
financial stake in this. That's really when the conflict comes in. You know, you could disclose I'm a resident, I'm on the committee, I'm a trustee.
Yep.
But that just to me enhances
Right, those
your
are all
support of the
businesses.
project.
Right.
You know, we've been working on this, this is what we all support, you know.
Okay.
So. Now, if you lived on the street, you know, their end of Common Road. So they are really the only true abutters to the street impact.
Seems like what you really do is making the parking on the common official.
Yeah, yes.
What if you just say we just want to make official parking and we're not moving the road?
Because we still need to make it one way.
Okay.
I like your thinking now.
To that
That's what's
point, you
happening.
are basically providing for a behavior that is currently standard practice anyway. It's just how people use the space currently.
Right, and now if you look, people park both ways on the common, so. It would define it more.
Just because we mentioned the abutters, did we meet since we talked to the gentleman who lives there?
Planning board meeting, but I don't think it was
You
here.
talked about the trees and how.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was right before this last committee meeting.
Oh, yes, we came, we went there and then came.
Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you,
That's right.
sorry,
That's
all right,
right.
I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
All right. Well, the next thing we wanted to do was talk about our mock-ups. So
Can I ask a question before? That expanse between the granite posts and the back of the building, how big is that, literally?
It changes.
That's right, there's that big.
Yeah, yeah.
Difficult to visualize.
And a
without-
Yeah,
dumpster too.
that's
Yeah,
how far
okay,
down it
okay,
goes, so
got
that's
it.
why it's so
Thank
high
you.
there, yeah.
Is the dumpster belong to who? The library? And where's that gonna be?
The same spot.
Roughly, it's moving a bit closer or a bit like more back in that image. So it wouldn't be in that image still. It'd be behind you in that image. We went into depth about where the dumpster should be. honestly.
Well, and that was the other request by the butter that he did not. Was there years
Yeah.
ago or something, and he was very unhappy with that, so.
Well, and
Blame 'em.
it was,
It's a
well, it
terrible-
was more because of the location to the stop sign and the truck stopping and it was the traffic issue of cars
Yeah,
trying to get
yeah, that's true.
around as they're emptying the dumpster,
Yeah.
so.
And it's a terrible place for a dumpster up there.
Yeah.
Because you're taking out the trash, you'd have to either go out through the historic and go up the ramps up there or out the front and up the road. So
Didn't even
it's
think
just
about the
way better to
logistics
have
of
it
it.
down.
Okay,
Obstructing the road.
that's what you first
Yeah.
made.
Yeah. We,
Maybe push it back up. They have a trustee meeting on the third.
No. That got moved.
It got moved,
Oh,
because I'm gonna be on a plane, so I.
News to me.
Yeah. I think it's
that check, we'll figure it out, sorry, but good, that it's not a conflict.
All right, let's, so we do want to share some initial mock-ups with you guys on potential bricks. As Andrew said at the beginning, we've looked at a bunch, we're still going to look at a bunch. We are building into our specification, once we have a general contractor on board and all the subcontractors, one of which will be a mason. That the mason will be required to build that we can all use to help us select the actual brick when we get there. And we are, so we're gonna specify multiple bricks for them to build mock-ups on that we can then all look at together. On the next slide, this is something we often do with our projects. Where we are actually looking at the actual materials in the field with the contractors who are going to build the building and the building committee and decision makers. So we've done that on a number of projects. You'll see here on the mock-ups can kind of look like. But we have built some crude mock-ups ourselves to share with you. I just want to say this could not be like the worst environment to look at mock-ups. We're under really bad lighting. It's not ideal, but that's kind of the point of these, is that we can bring them to the library. We can set them up on different sides, look at them in different times of day with different exposures. We can see them wet, we can see them dry, because masonry changes a ton depending on the type of light it's getting and if it's wet or dry. So we do have these here to take a look at with you guys. And it's just like our next step. We'll be looking at these further once we get a mason on board on the job site. It'll be a really exciting time. We'll be able to look at them together and kind of dial them in from there.
And can I just speak to that?
Yeah.
Because obviously you saw me with that weird pose in the picture Ben snapped. There were ones, I went up there, they invited me to look, and there were ones that I absolutely hated in the sun. I was like, you can't use that, oh my gosh. And then we moved it into the shade and it became my number one choice. And it's very strange how that really does make a difference, the light and where it's positioned, if it was on the patio or on the grass. So it really is important to see it in its like natural light. So just to reiterate what
This is a mock-up, so it's this is a bigger mock-up than what we have specified, but this is a mock-up of a full wall assembly at one of our projects at Quinnipiac University. So this is not on the building, it's freestanding. It's too big to carry around, so we're planning on having ones that we can bring around with us. But it's immensely helpful for a few reasons to select the right kind of composition of brick and stone. So that actually some of these were for flashing details and stuff, but it also helps explain kind of what these could look like.
And do we know yet what, like, because I know we had talked about, like, I know you said like you made holes and digging and stuff, but do you know what the foundation is, like under like underwear, like Tina's office?
Oh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
happens when you poke the hole
Oh,
in
you
the
should go
cover?
and look at the holes,
you
it's
should
cool.
come in.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's really neat,
But
you can
like-
see in.
like from the inside, so whatever's on the inside, is on the outside.
Potentially,
Like
I
when you
mean,
were
there's
showing us
still
with
like,
those pictures.
we know what's in a little 4x4
Okay.
area.
office
Yes.
that used to be the external.
Yes,
So underneath those three on those walls is
Yeah.
all cement up to the
Okay.
windows,
Yeah.
but right
Okay.
next to it is the brick wall.
interesting, so there
it's
is no like
weird.
big pieced granite foundation, it's cement and brick.
In some places there's cement. We didn't see any big pieces of granite, but we only saw
should
one
make
section
more
of one wall that's in the workroom, so
Right.
we couldn't dig down outside.
Yeah.
Why,
that's
you
what
wanna
I
be
was
part of
thinking
it?
about, like, there's
No.
no real stuff.
We
I don't wanna
didn't
be-
dig, I guess, but we did find rubble foundation in other places,
I
which
know, I don't
is
know what
just,
that means.
it's just, it's just someone throwing rocks on until it kind of can hold something up, and it's
You're
pretty,
really filling
it's pretty
me with a lot of
amazing.
confidence. Okay.
But then in the 70s, they obviously put kind of cement on one side of it in certain places, so it's well supported, and the rubble foundation has been holding buildings up for hundreds of years, so.
Cool.
Okay.
So this is some of the bricks. We got another delivery of bricks 2 hours before we were leaving today. So we couldn't bring everything. There's also way more in my car. But yeah,
Keep saying that.
stand up. I know. I really just need to bring them back. I don't want to just throw away.
So I'm
bricks.
gonna stop screen sharing. Not that it's gonna help by looking at us walking around, but at least they'll see that we're not just sitting here looking at the screen.
So we did just get these 3 bricks delivered to our studio today, so we were gonna make larger ones, just didn't come in time. They you can see, these are a little warmer, that one in particular. So we'll look at them, and then we're also gonna, start looking, like we did on the one on the right, looking at different blends of them together, so we can pull different tones together. These are two different types of stone that we're recommending. They're all quarried locally, likely blending them together. And there's some for the base, and then some composition of the bricks that you're seeing here to make up the main wall.
And these bricks look like they're, I guess, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking about bricks, but they look like they're like a tan color with paint on top, is that correct?
It's a glazing process. It's much like making pottery.
Okay,
it's
so it
very-
won't like chip off or like
No,
scrub off,
no,
okay,
it's ingrained into sort of the manufacturing process. of the
Okay.
brick.
With like your idea of the different colors, which one it was?
For the stone, or
The whole
so
sentence
we're
maybe.
likely gonna be either, there's 6 different brick here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
The one on the right there is a blend of these 3. And we're likely gonna be building our specification around the 6 that we see here, that we can look at larger mock-ups, and then we can look at ways to blend them together to create the tones that we feel are most appropriate.
And I don't know if you've said this already, but some of these have like a
Yeah,
reddish tint,
yeah,
so
so
like
you
you see
get
it
up
against
close
the
to
brick,
these, you
it's
can-
actually really cool, it pulls out the
Yeah,
color.
these 2 in particular, I mean, all 3 of these, you can kind of see, it's
You kind of
again,
see it over
tough
here.
in the light. But in bright sunlight, you can really see like the red clay of the brick kind of coming through the glaze. So it kind of picks up on the warmth of the brick that's there now.
And then the stone along the bottom, which the ones that are touching it, or any of these are the choices?
1, 2, and that one at the end there is one type of stone.
And then all the rest are the others?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're thinking it would be a blend of the 2.
Okay.
And then there's a whole conversation on the size of the stone, but we think that's a nice blend of, those, like I said at the beginning, those are quite warm, quite rusty in color. They kind of pull on the red of the current Randall, historic brick quite nicely.
No, I think that's great, and I think we had looked at this at the one in Somerville, where it's also, I know that it's not right up next to it, but it also kind of has like some wood tones, so if there's gonna be a lot of wood on the inside as well as gray,
Right.
it all sort of goes together.
And that was why, that's why I narrowed in on these with that have like quite a bit more texture and color coming out of them, is like we had a bunch of those really flat ones, and it just felt pretty monotonous.
Yeah.
But it took a kind of while to reach that moment of realization that it was like this texture and there's this color like behind it, and it around the building to nail that down.
But you're still gonna show us those bigger at some point, like
Yeah.
so we can see
Right.
what it would.
Yeah, we can build these to this size ourselves, and then we're gonna, like I was saying, we're gonna build in our specification for the mason, that I think we were specifying 4 by 6 foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mock-ups
Okay.
that we can look at, and they'll, be over there, that we can go look at against the library.
I think I asked to do this, but is there a difference in terms of, I don't know what I'm trying to ask, between a sort of flat versus textured brick?
Difference in what?
I don't know, like.
Like longevity.
Yes, there's
is
a
longevity.
longevity or something, I don't know what I'm trying to ask.
Not from a longevity
Okay.
perspective, but it totally, and again, it's just like the most forced light to see this thing, but you see it in the sunlight and you start to read the texture a lot more, and this becomes not so it's one tone, like you start to pick up the shadows and the dimples, and you can see a little bit of the clay underneath, and it becomes a lot more kind of dynamic.
Whereas the
these-
flat is
Yeah,
just kind of
whereas like
boring.
this is quite,
I was going for modern and contemporary looking.
I'm just.
I think
No, I
they're
don't-
both,
I
I
think
think
they're
they're
all
very
both
different.
Yeah,
This is-
they're- I don't really have a
It's
preference.
also like the dynamic is a great word for it, because I keep thinking about the couple of like random comments from the past about it being like a big gray building. And it's like, well, yeah, I guess if you're simplifying it, but when you actually pull all these components together, it's not like you're gonna walk by it and see like one gray line thing. It's right.
There's also no way you could possibly communicate that level of depth that you would observe in situ in a
Right.
rendering.
Yeah.
Right,
But
but did you
then-
tell the town that? Can you tell the town that? Right.
No, I can't, they need to see it for themselves.
Which one did you not like in the sun, but liked in the shade?
Good question.
It's here, right? Was it
Yeah.
this one?
I think it was the last one.
This one, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it looked so blah in the sun, and then you put it in the shade in the red, right? The red pops out in this one.
The red popped out more in the sun in the middle one, but in the shade, the red popped out in the white one.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, that was, yeah, there
That's
was
why
this
that
like
takes notes.
switch. Yeah.
But we are thinking that it might be some sort of mixture to be able to,
We do think it'll
So-
be
yeah,
a mix.
cool.
And there's no added cost for that either, like you can tell the masonry guy, I want it, like, a collage.
Yeah, and that's why we're gonna have 6 of these, is because there is composing that needs to be done and percentages of like, oh, is it 20% or is it 25% of the middle one and 5% of the dark one?
Excuse me.
So is the idea, whatever foundation you have, is a combination of 6 different types of brick?
I'm not gonna let you on the plane.
That would be 6.
Well, I've got a while.
Compositions.
So how many would you
That's why I
put
went to
together?
the doctor yesterday to make sure I'm not.
2, maybe 3?
Okay, so we're trying to narrow it
Is
down.
there-
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, we're just trying to give you the flavor of the ones that we'll have to pick from.
I've noticed my allergies been.
And
pretty
there's no scenarios in which it's all one blend.
It could be, I feel like that might be a little too, just monolithic.
Yeah.
But there could be,
2 or 3.
I mean, we were hoping when we went to this scale, we would see a little bit more variation in use, but, it still feel pretty monolithic.
The bigger they get, the more.
Yeah,
So would you, would you do a mock-up?
Do I? I do, okay.
Just.
we will, yeah, when that time comes, yeah, we're not that skilled masons.
Yeah.
Should we give you a list?
Yes, we will. Yeah, we'll
No, I
work
just,
on it for sure.
thank you.
And that's a really good point, I'm glad you said that, because you can kind of see, if you gotta
And
get
Sunny
low,
never came
but
up
like
with
it's light on the top versus dark.
No,
on
but
the
there was
bottom.
there was a
Just
Zach
to
who was on and now is gone.
to help
Just
illustrate
say
that the water
ZAK.
color is a big part of the decision too.
Right, no, I see that.
Yeah.
She was this one volunteering, I was like, oh, so see what you should do. So maybe.
The stones are beautiful. And this is bigger, but there's no way to decide anything. In front of the building.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, so, that's why, I mean, we made them this size, so we can get them over there, we got a few
Got an
more
empty
we want to make. And then we can, you know.
The plant fiber that's in it.
What's the point?
That's a huge difference.
Digest, it supports digestive health.
Did you look at?
That's not why you drink soda.
Brick that was close. It's a-
We may have had some in all of the boards that we had,
It's
that
not.
was a little bit more,
Okay.
I said to them, they were my I
See how much red was coming out.
It's because of that.
That was good.
Yes. She doesn't have time.
I don't know, it's my first,
So I feel like.
Matt, you know,
Is it on Tuesday?
I have some more.
oh, you're right, we have our bidding schedule.
Okay.
But yes, I do.
Oh, no, I'm fine for that, like, just had a couple late nights. so I'm like, I need
Sorry,
to rest.
triple
That's right.
So.
You know, you're young, why do you need to rest?
Yeah, I'm not that young.
Stay sharp.
Can't even screen share.
I've already moved it, so don't click.
Okay,
Meh.
you moved to 2 slides?
No, now I did.
Just jump around.
And there's the room at the table, but it's so much better. with technology.
Well, we're gonna go over a bidding
There we
schedule, sorry. So at the end of this month, we will be completing our 100% CD set. And the notice to proceed to bids will be issued. And then there's a series of things that happens pretty quickly. And a lot of people will be kind of brought into the project because all these GCs will be bidding on the job, and also subcontractors will be bidding on the job. But before we get into that, there are the two critical meetings, traffic safety public hearing meeting, sorry, I spelled that incorrectly. But that is extremely critical to the project. Just reiterate that the building
That's my thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I've often said, you know, I get for the project one way, but I see it every single day, how dangerous it is out there. So if it doesn't become one way, and even if it does, I mean, it has to be fixed, for lack of a better term. It's scary, like the people that fly in and people walking, getting in and out of their cars. It's
Maybe we should make some video. Show it happening.
That's not a bad idea.
No, it's not about it. I mean, I think both points are valid. The police chief will certainly be there to speak about safety. I mean, I'm sure I've shared this, but, long before I even came here, he's been trying to make it a one-way for safety reasons. So I think, you know, if we have the two chiefs supporting it for safety issues, pedestrian safety, and then the project, you know, I don't want to focus on it being tied to the project, but it is tied to the project.
Right.
The goal would be, as part of this, to have sort of a raised walkway, so it's almost like a speed bump that will, again, slow people down as they come up to the library. So everything really just adds to safety, sidewalk access that you don't currently have, and then obviously a more welcoming building.
Well, right, and that pathway I thought was actually meant to enhance the connection to the common.
Yes.
So it's not like we're not thinking about it at all. It's just, yeah.
It's a win-win-win. No, that was what I was gonna say. I was
Yep.
gonna say it does affect the memorial because it will be connected to something and it won't be an island anymore.
Right.
No, and I think, you know, no one goes in the common. No one walks around and looks at the monument. I mean, it
Oh,
just
the
doesn't
people
happen.
with the peace signs too.
Yeah, Thursday
Yeah,
nights,
Thursday
Thursday
nights.
nights, the commons are, but, you know, I could envision on the common side, some benches facing the library. People could get, you know, they could walk across the street and sit there and read a book, or to really make it more of a usable space. More inviting, so.
Anybody? I would.
And you said, someone said earlier that it's only gonna be partly one way? What does that mean?
So at the
Two
church
ways by the
end,
church.
they'll be able to come in and out of their parking lot.
Yes.
And then right after the church entrance, the goal would be to make it one way from that direction on.
And going out towards Library Hill,
Correct.
so no one can come in from Library Hill the way that people do now. Okay,
Correct.
right.
Now, I will preface that by saying that's the proposal, but over the course of construction, there will be a full traffic study of the common area, so the town center in general, you know, and potentially they'll come back and say, you know what, it really makes more sense to go one way in the other direction. I don't know that we care, right, because we'll still have parking on the same side and we'll still have the front, you know, so to us, I don't think it matters. I think the police, then for cut throughs, it makes more sense to go 117 to Library Hill, not the other way around.
Right.
And you mentioned, you know, about tying it to the construction of the library, but mention that when you're building the library.
Right.
yes.
Right, well, as
So,
I
mean,
said.
It's not like, you know, if the library gets designed without that, and then it gets changed, you're like, oh, too bad we didn't think of that.
Right, well, I think, you know, in a perfect world, the road will be closed during construction, so that we have staging and area for trucks. And then when you reopen it, it's a whole new, so people will get used to having to go around because they don't have access to it during that time.
Yeah.
And so that would be the perfect time to say, okay, now you have a new traffic pattern, you have a new library.
And like, who are these people that are gonna get mad anyway? They're not the library users.
Morgan.
They're the people
People
who
get mad
could be
about
so
everything. in
No,
this
I know,
town.
but I think about it because the Crescent Street cut through, you know,
Oh,
you can't go through, you can't do it for chunks of the day, so you have to go around, but like, okay, that's like sort of annoying for 15 seconds.
So the
feel like
biggest
people need to
argument,
be okay with
the
that.
biggest argument against it right now is taking a left from 117 onto Common. That's the only way I go. I don't go to the library. I go that way so I can pull in the correct way in front of the building. You know, maybe you have to wait a few seconds, you know, maybe with the traffic study, they have to cut the curb on that end a little bit to make it a little wider entrance. That's really the biggest argument, is sort of the awkward turn into Common Road, that it's gonna back up traffic on 117 and. Gotcha. But I don't know how many people really care.
Can you give an example of, I'm trying to picture it being partly one way. Can you think of an example where something is partly one way? It just seems like it's gonna be strange.
No, I mean, almost think of it as two separate roads, like in front of the lot, in front of the church, it's almost, you go right into their parking. So at the church end, you're not gonna really have two-way, but you'll be able to come out of their parking lot and go out 117 if you really wanted to.
So it's almost like a separate.
Yep.
Road.
Right. It's like access.
So we'll all be at the meeting. Right?
And that's in this room.
Downstairs. Both meetings, I believe, would be on the second floor. And again, through Zoom, so he could go hybrid, you could come in person and be on Zoom.
So as we kind of start the next process of this project, the first step will be to send the invite to bid to the pre-qualified GCs and to the subcontractors. There are Massachusetts laws about certain subcontractors bidding on certain parts of the project, and it's required. And it's a whole thing, but we don't need to get into it here, but it separates this process into kind of two processes.
That's what the FSB acronym stands for. It's filed subbid, so we can't.
And we work on these projects quite often, so we kind of know this process pretty well.
So the general contractor doesn't necessarily pick all their own subcontractors?
Not on public bids
That's the
jobs in
beauty of Mass
Massachusetts.
public-
It's generally, I guess I could add to that, it's generally to their advantage to pick the one that is the lowest. In terms of the tabulation of the filed subbidding, they are not obligated to pick the lowest.
And then there will be a pre-bids conference / walkthrough of the building. And then they'll have questions due a week later for the filed subbids. We'll have questions due, and then we'll work to answer those questions. And then I believe I don't have the date here to get those questions back, but then the filed subbid bids are due. And then the GC questions start. GCs will be able to see the filed subbid bids and select the subcontractors, and then we'll get those bids in early November, and then I believe this group will form again to vote to award
Yes,
to the lowest responsive bidder.
yes, that's the 15th milestone on your slide. Just off the end of the blue bar, vote to award.
Yeah.
So we basically don't meet between now and November 15th. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Except on the 3rd and the 10th.
Except-
I will be there. But yes,
Go, Lisa.
I just wanna make sure.
And then this project really starts. So, there are some strategically placed vacations in here and much deserved.
Not here on the 15th.
Mine's during the filed subbid questions due period right before the filed subbid.
Meetings.
That's right when mine ends.
Perfect. It's mobile.
And that's it.
Done.
Exciting, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to Matt with his update.
Sure. If folks would like, as part of my update, I can start with if folks want me to expand on the pre-qualification purpose or any of that, I can do so now. Otherwise, I can go into my update as scheduled. Is that a yes?
Update as
Updated schedules.
All right. Yeah. Let's see, can I share a screen?
Yes, you should be able to.
Participant screen share.
Okay, I lied.
Okay. I will share that screen. Put up. There are a couple of components to this. We'll start with an excerpt from the monthly report, which talks about some of the milestones, tasks that were completed during the month of August. We had, as Andrew was discussing, the zoning board of appeals process. We advertised for general contractor pre-qualification as we're pre-qualifying just general contractors on this project, not the filed sub-bidders, as a pre-screening measure for selecting our bidder pool. August related to the decarbonization grant that we're going to be pursuing, working through Denise on that to advance that process. And then, as Andrew also alluded to, we completed the 65% construction document set on which the estimate that we discussed earlier in Design Lab's update was based. And at the end of August was when we received the general contractor statements of qualifications that the pre-qualification committee is now reviewing. We are actually ahead of schedule as part of that process. We look to have that concluded by the middle of next week, next Wednesday. We have what we anticipate is the final pre-qualification committee meeting that we will need in order to conclude that process. So that's sort of where we've been. And then that next piece of this is for the month of September, which takes us essentially right up to where the timeline that Andrew just shared with us schedule starts. So we had a pre-qualification meeting last Wednesday and earlier today, which we've made considerable amount of progress on those items. We're working through evaluating their statements of qualifications, gathering the information we need, and making sure that we're evaluating all of those evenly across the members of the committee. And so while that's going on, we are getting project references, checking references on the contractors who submitted qualifications packages, and making sure that they are okay to work with. That we ask about their ability to stay on budget, schedule, how they are with change orders, how well they play in the sandbox with other contractors that they work with on projects. So that's all part of that process as well. Targeting a couple of other dates with the special town meeting upcoming. And then we are targeting the end of September for the completion of the 100% construction documents and getting those ready for the bidding process, which was on the slide that we just reviewed, related to making the documents available to interested bidders. Any questions on any of those items?
So today it says we're voting on the total project budget.
That is the next agenda topic.
Oh, okay.
Sorry
to jump.
Nope, it's perfectly fine. So as typically with my monthly report, I'll include budget snapshots and a schedule snapshot, which you can see in my scroll pane over there. I've updated those to today, since those ones were now at this point 2 weeks old. So I can start with a updated look at the project budget. I know that the primary update to this will be Okay. Well, that catches up. The primary updates are to some of the invoices that we've received that we have reviewed and approved for Design Lab services as they've been working through the construction documents. So considerable amount of work has gone into advancing the documents. That's what the invoices they've submitted for approval reflect. We reviewed that, we approved that. And so their updates are shown here on our financial status report under, which is microscopic, and I'll zoom in. They've moved from the unpaid to the paid column, reflecting progress on their invoicing. And I believe the same is true with Colliers. There's a lot of sort of minute detail in this. If there's any questions related to budget status on any particular items, I can. But I think the big picture budget information has been reviewed as part of Design Lab's presentation. I guess what I would say in summary is confident that we remain on budget. Any questions I can answer or anything I can address related to the budget? Check Zoom, see if there's anybody in the chat. I don't hear or see any. When this catches up, I'll move to the schedule, which I've formatted this slightly different than you may have seen in the past in terms of graying out items here as we've completed them so that it's easier to sort of identify exactly where we are currently. Where we are right now is building committee meeting, which we identified as the agenda topic, vote to recommend. And that's the road ahead, which basically takes us right to the start of the bidding process that Andrew described. Part of that is going to be engaging a bid hosting vendor who are looking to take some of the labor out of the equation with electronic bidding. We anticipate getting a considerable amount of information, and we find that it's often advantageous to use somebody like a BidDocs Online or a Project Dog or one of those electronic plan room services that automate a good portion of that and tabulate that for us. So we are going to recommend to the town that that approach be taken, working with a vendor of Design Labs choice to do that. There are different platforms, some are more user-friendly than others. And let's see, this goes through the bidding schedule down here that Andrew's outlined, which leads us to our next scheduled building committee. To approve the low bidder or make a recommendation on awarding to the low bidder, leading up to us issuing a notice to proceed to the selected general contractor and getting us into the construction phase.
Can I interrupt for a minute, Matt?
You may.
We had talked, I think it was last week at our weekly meeting, maybe it was 2 weeks ago now.
Mhm.
That at some point between now and beginning of October, we needed to go to the library trustees to present the full design. So do we, I don't, we haven't talked about that yet tonight, but we talked about that privately in our weekly meeting. So we need to make sure we work that in at some point, because the trustees are supposed to vote on the final design.
What's the timing on that, Denise? So
Well, I'd say before we go to bid, technically.
When did the next month's get rescheduled to?
I think it's the
Week after?
Wednesday.
Oh,
No,
I remember this now.
it's the same week.
Do you know?
Does it have,
Yeah.
Is
could
there
it
an
be
appetite?
October or November?
Well, no, I think it would have, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, okay, so the next meeting will be, what did you say, the Wednesday after or the week after? So it's either the fourth,
I believe it's the fourth, it's the same week.
okay,
Of October.
so yeah, but if we need to schedule something separate to do this, we can. We
So that
just
was
need
gonna
a
be my
couple
question,
weeks
yeah.
notice and I can gather potential dates and work with you, we can do that.
We have, we're scheduled to have the design documents 100% complete as of the end of September, September 27th. So there is a sort of a window before the documents are, are scheduled to go live where that could be accomplished. It's also possible that we could sort of that November 15th date when we would be anticipated to vote to approve them. So that is something that could also be explored.
So just, the building committee is not meeting again until November 15th.
Not
Correct.
according to our
Okay.
schedule.
Okay. I mean, even if you just push the go live by a day, we probably could plan to have you come to that October 4th meeting if you'd like.
Mhm.
And we'll put it on the agenda and just do that. I don't anticipate there being any problems. So I think it's a formality, but that's important, so.
In the event that there were any changes that did come out of that, we would have the opportunity while the bid docs are out to address them as part of an addendum in any case. So that bidders were working with the latest and greatest information. So that's also not insurmountable. We could target the 4th.
Okay. Would it make sense should I confirm that and just let you know and you can pass that along? And that works, okay. I think we'll be okay.
But
Just verify that too.
Yeah, I don't have it on my calendar, so I'm gonna do that, but I'll take care of it.
Were there any further schedule questions? Okay. I will stop share.
who's talking total budget? Don't all jump at once.
I believe that's Matt's agenda item, right?
The discussion on that, certainly. I think we had been looking for a recommendation related to what the ask was going to be for the supplemental funding needed to accomplish the remaining project scope. And Denise, I think the amount was the $2.5 million that we were going to ask the committee to issue a recommendation about. So working with Denise, with Tina, with Design Lab, we sort of studied, the total project budget in the context of the value management work that was done previously, and looked at the construction hard cost in the context of some of the other sort of things that go into the project, furnishings, fixtures, equipment, soup to nuts. And we concluded that in our estimation, based on all of the costs that we can anticipate that would be a part of the project, we feel that the $2.5 million figure would give us the additional funds that we would need to complete the project, soup to nuts, all of it.
So we're voting on, it's an $8.2 million budget, right?
No,
The construction hard cost is 8.424.
8.4.
And then there are additional items that are called soft costs, in addition to that. Everything. Version I can share here of the, of that, just a distilled version of what was on the budget update that I shared a minute ago.
Can I jump in for a minute?
Sure.
So I think to summarize, and I apologize for those of you on Zoom that the camera is now acting up, but, so based on the 65% construction document estimate, it brings us to around because we're comfortable that when we go out to bid, whatever the bids come in, will be under that buffer. Using 11.1, that still gives us a little bit of room, a little bit of contingency. Matt opened some bids today that were significantly under their total project cost, a much larger project budget, but there was some good news. We do have a lot of people that are in the mix, potentially competitive bid process. So I am comfortable that, you know, as a whole, if you sort of bless 11.35 as our ceiling now on the new project cost, it will be under that and we won't be spending that much money. But I think that's what we're going into, obviously town meeting, saying that that is our new project cost until we get the bid documents.
So we need a motion and a vote on the 11.35.
Okay, and just remind me again, what was the pre-approved?
The contingency.
Yeah.
So, when the CM bids,
Mhm.
is there a certain percentage in contractors contingency they need to carry?
We are carrying a 5% owner's contingency, which is for any owner-directed
Yeah.
scope changes. We're also carrying a 5% construction contingency, which would account for anything that might be a change order due to unforeseen conditions. We felt that was prudent, given an ad reno on a historic structure, you might find some things. We already did, poking some holes in Tina's office.
So those are helpful contingencies, I think. for
Yes.
the recreation building of this
Yes.
size.
Yes.
So,
Yes, additionally, as part of the, I would just add. A sort of additional contingency, if you will, that may appear in certain places in the soft cost budget also. So that's, we feel that with the additional ask, as Denise has outlined, that gives us sufficient contingency to accomplish the rest of the project, all in.
So basically, when people from the town are asking us, like, you know, you came back and now you want more money and blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. We can say we have 10% built into this so that we never have to come back to you again.
Yes.
We are not ever doing that.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Just need to make sure I understand my messaging.
Yep. This is,
Every project has contingency, especially renovation projects.
Right.
Well, but we thought we had that the first time.
That
Oh, I
was,
mean-
so it's different kind of, this is actually part of the construction process. There are always unknowns.
yeah,
This
because
is,
someone's gonna say like, well, my house went over, what are you gonna do then? It's
Yeah.
like, we would plan for that,
Yeah.
so that's included in the process.
We're also not asking them for more money. That needs to be in
Right.
your talking points too.
Right.
Who's presenting?
Me.
Okay.
It's when I ask, I'm the one asking because it's my budget.
Right,
So,
okay.
so
you're
you
not
all can
gonna-
stand up as residents and
make our comments.
Make your comments. Yeah.
Make the meeting longer.
Let Denise do it.
Okay.
No, and it is important, there has been misinformation out there. So saying that the taxpayers are not paying for this is not accurate. They're paying for it in their current tax rate. So what they currently pay for taxes, the difference is, this is not in addition to, this is not adding to the debt exclusion that was authorized. This is not going to so in a normal budget cycle, with our normal budget, taxes increase because we have the 2.5% flexibility. This is built into that. So the cuts will be made within my budget, within the capital plan that goes forward to make up for an annual debt service payment to make up the $2.5 million. So some people are like, oh, it's not going to affect your taxes. It is still part of what you pay in taxes. It's just not
gonna
on top
increase
of that.
them, right?
So now, and I just wanted to be clear, it's inside the Prop 2.5 levy. It is not outside of that, which means it's not added on top of your tax after the tax rate set. So just to clarify that. I have
sense of how, like, of approval versus non-approval of this, and do we have, what happens if it doesn't? I'm just gonna throw it out there, because I just want to.
There's a press release on that.
So the $8,850,000 is still authorized. So worst case scenario, this does not pass. All of you as taxpayers are still paying the same amount that you approved last year. Your taxes are still gonna go up by approximately $230, give or take, a year for this project. But that means we then have to, all the design money is gone, because we have to go back to the drawing board to figure out what we can do with the money we have left and how we can fix that building.
Okay, and you are gonna iterate that?
Yeah.
Yes. Iterate, whatever,
Yes.
that, okay.
Now, I only have 5 minutes. I was only given 5 minutes by the moderator,
Oh,
so
boy.
I only have, I think, 5 slides. It's very basic bulleted, and
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you were on Capital last week. It's pretty much what I went over with Capital. It just hits the basics. It talks about the sort of escalation and then de-escalation back of cost, what we cut through value management, what the cost drivers were, and where we are today. That's pretty much all it is. So a lot of that will be in the questions
Yeah.
in my responses, because I can't present it all in my 5 minutes.
Tomorrow night.
It's tomorrow, Thursday. Yes, it is.
So are we waiting now? Do we need to make a motion
Yes.
to approve this? Okay, so then I can do that. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve the 11.35 as our total project budget with the built-in contingency. That should cover everything that we need.
Second.
Right?
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call. So Denise,
Yes.
Tina, yes. Morgan,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes,
Kat,
Yes.
Marcy. I'll go to Aisha.
Yes.
And Sunny is not on, correct?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
That was Marcy's item.
In favor, right?
Right,
So
declared
unanimous. So the unanimous vote, thank you. Okay, so next up are invoices to review and approve the payment.
I make a motion, we approve Collier's invoice for services in July in the amount of $8,444.29.
Second.
Okay, can we do roll call? Aisha,
Yes.
Marcy,
Yes.
Oh, she unmuted again.
Kat,
Yep.
Frank,
yes.
Lisa,
Yep.
Morgan.
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Tina. Yes.
Marcy, did you
Marcy?
want to chime in?
Sorry, I did. I don't think you guys heard me. Yes.
Yeah, that was unanimous.
I make a motion that we approve the Collier's invoice for services in August in the amount of $8,425.96.
Second.
Okay, Denise,
Yes.
Tina, yes. Morgan,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes,
Kat,
Yes.
Aisha,
Yes.
Marcy.
Yes.
Okay, that was unanimous. Thank you.
Be more efficient. I make a motion that we approve 3 Design Lab invoices for services through July, August, and reimbursable expenses. I did not add them up, but you all have them in front of you, or I sent them all out.
Yes. Second. Thank you. Denise?
Yes.
Tina, yes. Morgan? Yes. Lisa?
Yep.
Frank?
Yes,
Yes.
Aisha?
Yes.
Marcy?
Yes.
Lisa, did you get the amounts?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so the minutes?
Yes, there was one, edit that Richard brought up that I mentioned to Lisa.
Oh,
There was a-
yeah, sorry. I work with a guy named John Shea and I always stick Shea in instead of Bates. I will fix that.
So I make a motion that we approve the minutes with the amendments changing Shay back to Bates.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Denise?
Yes.
Tina, yes. Morgan?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yep.
Frank?
yes,
Pat? Melissa?
Yes.
Richard?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Marcy?
Yes.
That was unanimous, thank you. Is there anything else that we need to talk about?
Is it appropriate to talk about the town meeting issue?
We could chat about town meeting.
So I'm hearing that after the high school vote, there'll be a recess.
So depends. The expectation is a large number of people are gonna get up and walk out. So the moderator would have a brief recess so that it's not too disruptive.
So do we feel like we're gonna lose too many people when that happens?
I think the people that care about the library are gonna stay, because I've already heard from a number of folks that plan to stay through Articles 1 and 2. We can't force them to stay. A lot of them are having their kids there, they're,
Putting the word out that please stay for the second. Is it,
Yes.
is that a good idea, or is it a bad idea for the people that voted yes on the library to ask them to stay for vote number 2? Maybe we want them to leave.
well, that's it.
If you're going to vote yes, please. stay. If you plan on voting no, please feel free to leave.
Please leave after Article 1.
Maybe the messaging should be, please come and show your support for the library by,
Staying the extra 5 minutes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Not a long presentation.
And not have it be just focus it in
I
on.
imagine the library's gonna be a long presentation and a lot of discussion.
The high school.
I mean, the high school.
Yeah, how long does it have
So
to
he's
present?
estimating all total 1 hour
For the library, I mean, for
for the high school. They have 12 minutes to present, and
But it's always the questions.
then the questions.
And you've got 5 minutes and, what kind of questions should we ask? If we got it, well, can we ask, is it appropriate for us to get up?
You can just make a
You
statement.
can make a statement. So, I mean, you could certainly ask questions, but I wouldn't just ask questions to ask because people know that you're on committees. So you could get up and say, I'm on the exterior design committee, we've been working on this, it's better than what we have now, whatever you wanna say. I think other people are gonna ask questions, so I don't know you necessarily need to. But I think, again, standing up and offering support.
Okay, and the safety, the one-way road issue, that's not going, so who decide, who's the final? Traffic safety is the final decision?
Select board, the town,
They make a recommendation to the select board, yeah.
right, so traffic safety will recommend to the select board. Ultimately, the select board decide on traffic patterns and things in town.
So it's best to probably not talk about that.
yeah, don't muddy the waters.
Yeah.
I find that often the select board accepts the recommendation from the safety committee. At least in some of the recent stop sign things that have come up at their meetings.
Well, and that's why we have a traffic safety committee. The select board are not experts. They rely on the folks that are the experts, the public safety
Planning board getting involved in.
Yep.
They would supervise the evaluation of traffic study.
So that. But it does not. Traffic measures, public safety has nothing to do with the planning board.
Right.
Are they coming to this, the 10-3 meeting they might, okay.
I know, well, the planning director is a member of the traffic safety committee. But she doesn't necessarily share the same views as her board.
Okay, so if traffic safety is gonna make a recommendation to the select board. Let's say everyone says yes, that's still contingent upon this study being done.
No,
No. Then what about the study?
the study's being done either way.
Okay.
The planning board is urging the select board not to take any action until the completion of the study.
Okay, okay.
Where I'm
Doesn't
saying,
fit with
do
our
it now
stuff.
and build it into the study.
Right, okay. Figure.
I just wanna confirm, next time we see each other, it's this whole body, 11:15.
10-3.
10-3.
Well, I'm sorry. 9:18. 9:18 is when I gotta see everybody.
But the last red, okay.
I guess. I mean, if anything comes up, we'll certainly
Send an
email you,
email.
but
Okay, perfect.
yes, I guess 11:15.
Okay.
Okay, motion to adjourn 8:19.
Second.
Unanimous, all in favor,
Unanimous, thank
good.
you.
Um,
Thank you.
No, that's me, but we.